Welcome to this edition of the Dead Podcast. I'm your host, Cam McKinney. This is episode number 77 of the podcast. In this edition of the podcast, I'm talking all about Gerrit Cole signing with the New York Yankees. That's right, Gerrit Cole signs the biggest contract ever for a pitcher with the New York Yankees. Cole signed a 9-year, $324 million deal. That's $36 million a year with a 5th-year opt-out. You might be asking yourself, why does Gerrit Cole deserve this money? He has a 94-52 career record, 3.22 ERA, 3-time All-Star. He's 6-4 with a 2.60 ERA in the postseason. And this obsession with Cole did not happen out of the blue for Cashman and the Yankees. They drafted Cole in 2008 and he decided to go to college. Then they tried to trade for him 2 years ago when the Houston Astros acquired him. So that was the turning point for the Astros being the dominant team of the end of the decade, and the Yankees missing out on being really World Series contenders. The Astros get Cole, they get to a World Series. The Yankees miss out on Cole, guess what? They miss out on a World Series. That probably made them even more obsessed with getting Gerrit Cole. The Yankees were never not going to get Gerrit Cole. I mean, he was a really good pitcher, but in the past 2 seasons, he became a great pitcher with seasons of 276 strikeouts in 2018 and 326 strikeouts in 2019. And over those 2 years, he's arguably been a top 2 pitcher. Although he was a real Cy Young candidate this year, I thought Justin Verlander deserved the Cy Young. But no one would have argued if Gerrit Cole landed a Cy Young within the past 2 seasons. He's been an Astro. He's been a monster performer for the Houston Astros. But there was a real concern that it wasn't going to end up that he was going to become a great pitcher with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A changing of franchises really helped and benefited Gerrit Cole. Will it benefit him again? Because let's think about this. With the Houston Astros, he has been on a pitching rotation and a staff that has had Justin Verlander, Dallas Keuchel, and Zach Greinke. Now with the New York Yankees, he will be the unquestioned number 1 starting pitcher. And again, when he was the unquestioned number 1 with the Pittsburgh Pirates, it didn't really end that well. Now did it? And I'm saying, yes, Gerrit Cole was younger then. Maybe Gerrit Cole has learned a few things with the Houston Astros. But will he be able to be as dominant with the New York Yankees? Because again, I do think there's a big difference between being the second best pitcher on a team that has Justin Verlander, Zach Greinke, Dallas Keuchel, all those guys who have been Houston Astros in the time Gerrit Cole has been. Now with the Yankees, he is the unquestioned guy that needs to be a Cy Young level performer for that team. I mean, recent examples of guys not being the number 1 on their staffs and then joining new teams haven't been great lately. I mean, Zach Greinke joining the Diamondbacks. Zach Greinke benefited greatly by having Clayton Kershaw be the ace of the Dodgers, that he was able to have spectacular seasons with the Dodgers. I don't think Zach Greinke has ever benefited from being the ace of a pitching staff. And again, Jake Arrieta with the Cubs had John Lester and John Lackey, but then when he was with the Philadelphia Phillies right now, he is not even close to being the best pitcher on the Phillies like they're paying him to be. Again, they have Aaron Nola, but Jake Arrieta has not been as good without being on a staff full of star pitchers. Can Gerrit Cole be great without being on a staff of other star pitchers? I think that's the biggest question mark I have, and that's kind of a big question mark for a guy that's being paid $36 million a year. But in Gerrit Cole's favor is that the Yankees have had a fantastic track record of taking star pitchers from other teams and making it work. CC Sabathia from the Indians, Mike Mussina from the Orioles. These have been 2 of the best pitching signings in recent memory. I mean, those 2 really worked out. That's best case scenario for the New York Yankees, that they get the exact same thing from Cole that they got from CC Sabathia. A steady ace who will be a good teammate to others and help the rest of the pitching staff. And Mike Mussina was also great for the Yankees. I mean, come on, he won 20 games his final season as a New York Yankee. I think we'd all like to see Gerrit Cole do that at the end of this 9-year deal. I mean, the only big miss the Yankees have had for a star pitcher was Randy Johnson, and he was already in his mid-30s, and that should not be a problem for Gerrit Cole. He is going into the prime of his career. The Yankees, the first 3 or 4 years of this, should be the most dominant seasons Gerrit Cole has had as a star pitcher. I do find it interesting in sports when you sign one guy and you say that guy is going to fix our problem. Okay, so the Yankees have a starting pitching issue, or so they think that's their biggest issue. So they sign Gerrit Cole and they think their issue is fixed. I think sometimes that can work, and sometimes that guy really does help out your problems and all your issues go away. But then look at the Minnesota Vikings getting Kirk Cousins last year, and they go, we have a star quarterback now. Our quarterback issue is gone. It almost takes away what was good about you. Like the Vikings defense wasn't as well served to have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, so you thought your issues were all gone, so you didn't think about your other issues. I think that can become a real struggle for the Yankees. You have Gerrit Cole, so now you think you have a really good to great rotation. And what are their strengths going to be? I mean, they still have a lot of guys who need a lot of playing time on their infield. Like, they have other issues. Like, is their bullpen going to be affected by this? I think that's always a dicey thing in sports, to sign one guy who's going to fix your biggest issue. I think Gerrit Cole is good enough to fix that issue, but this could really go sideways if you're relying on that one guy to fix your issue. Like, the Yankees have won 100 games each of the past 2 seasons. If they win 95, are you going to look at this Gerrit Cole signing as like a tremendous waste of time? Like, that's the issue here. The Gerrit Cole, how does that affect the rest of the team if they don't go upward spiral? And it's hard for a team that won 100 games to win more than that. I mean, you really have to win the World Series to make this signing work, and that's a real risk in baseball because there's 29 other teams trying to do the exact same thing. I think one of the biggest reasons I love this signing is because it takes Gerrit Cole away from other teams that the Yankees would have to face in order to win a World Series. Take Gerrit Cole away from the Dodgers. Take him away from the Angels. You don't want the Angels to get Gerrit Cole and then to think that they're back, because you don't want another competitor in the American League. The Yankees, again, they filled their weakness, but they also took Gerrit Cole away from other teams trying to win a World Series. It's almost like that year when the Yankees signed Mark Teixeira. The Red Sox were about to sign Mark Teixeira, and then all of a sudden, the Yankees took him away. All offseason long, it was talking about how Gerrit Cole wanted to be in LA. They took Gerrit Cole away from a major rival. The Dodgers are a major rival to the Yankees. They took Gerrit Cole away. Thus, they weakened the Dodgers and strengthened themselves. The same thing they did with Mark Teixeira. That is a great signing, in my opinion. And the Mark Teixeira signing, you could say if the Red Sox had ended with Mark Teixeira, they might have been the ones who won the World Series that year. No, it was the Yankees that won the World Series that year. They also signed CC Sabathia and AJ Burnett, but I think that Mark Teixeira signing steered them into that championship direction, and this kind of signing could definitely do that. Gerrit Cole being on the Yankees and not the Dodgers, the Yankees could have won the World Series already. Let's take a look at the starting pitching options the New York Yankees now have. Gerrit Cole, James Paxton, Luis Severino, Masahiro Tanaka, Domingo Germán, or J.A. Happ. I think J.A. Happ will be the odd man out. There's already talks that they'll trade him away, but I think the thing that's being lost in the Gerrit Cole discussion is how good the year before last year Luis Severino was. And the year before that, 2 years in a row, he was a dominant star pitcher. He was the next ace of the Yankees. Now you have 2 dynamite star pitchers if Luis Severino can stay healthy. And that's all you need in a postseason. We've seen this with the Yankees before. They had CC Sabathia and AJ Burnett that postseason and Andy Pettitte. You need free pitchers. The Yankees have free quality pitchers. Gerrit Cole, James Paxton, who was really good at the end of last season, and Luis Severino. And they also have Masahiro Tanaka in case any of those free struggle. Masahiro Tanaka has proven he's a really good pitcher in the postseason. That 4 is better than most teams' top 4 pitchers. I mean, I really like that group. I mean, Gerrit Cole, of course, is going to bring you something. James Paxton really brought it at the second half of last year. Now, if James Paxton can be that good for a whole season, the Yankees could have something that the Houston Astros had last year. 3 tremendous star pitchers. Even Herman was really good last year up until he got suspended. I think he won about 15 games before the suspension. The Yankees have star quality pitchers on their staff now. They have options. That's what they needed. They need that clear number 1 ace. And it's going to give their bullpen a rest. That bullpen was overworked last year. Gerrit Cole is going to eat some innings. Luis Severino is hopefully going to eat some innings. That's way more innings this year for starting pitchers. I mean, they have Adam Ottavino. They have Aroldis Chapman. They need to use those guys less to have them ready for a postseason run. This reminds me of the Seattle Seahawks. Take advantage of your team while you don't have to pay your young stars. Right now, Gleyber Torres is not being paid like he's going to be paid sooner rather than later. Aaron Judge is not being paid like a superstar. You have a window to overpay for things that you absolutely need, and the Yankees absolutely needed a star pitcher. And then down the line, you can worry about signing Gleyber, signing Aaron Judge, maybe even signing Gary Sanchez. You don't have to pay those guys absolutely everything right now. Take advantage of this championship window, because even the Yankees with all their resources aren't going to be able to pay everyone on this team. You locked up Gerrit Cole now. You've locked up Luis Severino, so you're going to have a run of having 2 really good pitchers. Wow, Aaron Judge is not being paid like he's the best player in the world. Like Gleyber Torres is not being paid like he's one of the best players in the world. Take advantage of this run. Use your money and resources to try to win as many championships as you can before you have to give Aaron Judge $400 million, or before you have to give Gleyber Torres $300 million, or before you're not going to want to re-sign Gary Sanchez because to you he's probably not worth a $100 million contract. Take advantage of this. Take advantage of the fact. Try to get Giancarlo Stanton back to that level that he was. Hope he gets back, but take advantage of your resources now while these players are young and affordable. We've seen how these big contracts at the end of them can affect the Yankees. CC Sabathia at the end was not helping the Yankees, paying him that much money. Alex Rodriguez affected the Yankees. Jacoby Ellsbury. Even these big teams cannot afford these signings at the end of them. You need to take advantage of the winning now. There's going to be a time where you might have an aging Giancarlo Stanton on your team, and even you might have an aging Gerrit Cole on your team, and you're not going to... This is exactly what happened at the end of the Yankees' last run. They had a bunch of aging stars. Now you have a young team with Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez. You have Gerrit Cole. You have Giancarlo Stanton. Hopefully he's going to bounce back. This is your year. This is your window to win as many championships with this roster as you can. And I think Brian Cashman knows it, and that's why he's taking this hit to take Gerrit Cole. No matter the money he's going to pay him, no matter what it's going to cost, because he knows he has a window, and it has to be now. I mean, this is a team who hasn't won a championship in 10 years, and they've seen their rival Red Sox win 2 in that time period. The Yankees need to win a championship, and they need to make sure it happens now. And Brian Cashman knows that more than anyone. If he's going to keep this job, he's done a really good rebuild, but he knows there's a championship window, and he needs to take advantage of it. I think the Yankees needed to go into this offseason getting either Steven Strasburg or Gerrit Cole, and they got Gerrit Cole. It was the right choice, because Hyun-Jin Ryu, Dallas Keuchel, or Madison Bumgarner, they would have been really good options if you could get 2 or 3 of those guys, but Gerrit Cole was the one. You needed that star ace pitcher. You needed that flashy pickup, because now you are the unquestioned leaders of the American League right now. You are the favorites of the American League. It's about making that splash signing. The Yankees are the Lakers of baseball. They need to make that splashy star signing to prove that they are back. This is we are the Yankees. We are going to spend whatever we want to spend. The Dodgers are not going to outspend us. The Angels are not going to outspend us. We are going to get who we want to get. And that's exactly what they did. They got Gerrit Cole because they wanted Gerrit Cole. I mean, last year, the Yankees were in this injury-riddled season of we kind of like them because they're fighting through all those injuries and they're winning a lot of games. No, the Yankees are going going to be back to being the most hated team in baseball. And that's what's good for baseball, to have a team like that to root against. You don't want the Yankees to win a championship. Last year, it felt like you wanted them all to come back and prove that they could win. You were like, Luke Voigt, who is this? Aaron Hicks is out. Who's Michael Tauchman? You were rooting for them in a way. I think it's better for baseball when you're rooting against the New York Yankees. I think I'm in the minority here, but I like the fact that Brian Cashman waited to sign the player and not trade some of his young assets to get a star pitcher. I like the fact that the Yankees waited, used their money, and got the star pitcher they needed. Because I think it can really help to trade for a star pitcher. The Red Sox traded for Chris Sale. It worked out in the end. But they also gave up a young talent. The Yankees did not give up anything. They had the resources and the money. Yes, Brian Cashman doesn't get credit for the Yankees being the richest team in baseball. But he does get credit for being patient, because I don't think that if the Yankees had acquired Zach Greinke last season that they were going to win a World Series anyway. I think they needed someone better than Zach Greinke, and they got someone better. They got Gerrit Cole. I don't think there was any options last year that they could have traded for to win a World Series that year. They needed to wait, and they needed to wait for that star ace pitcher, and they got one in the name of Gerrit Cole. This was the waiting game. Yes, Brian Cashman was trashed for a week, but if Brian Cashman gets 3 World Series out of this, the wait will be well worth it. It doesn't matter for that week he was being trashed for not making that trade at the trade deadline. Well, guess what? He played the long game, and if he gets those World Series, which I think he will, it will all be worth it in the end here. Right now, this Yankees team is the closest thing we've gotten to those Yankees teams of the 90s, with a roster full of young position players. I mean, in the 90s, they had Derek Jeter. Guess who they have now? Gleyber Torres. They had Bernie Williams. Guess who they have now? Aaron Judge. They had Jorge Posada, young catcher. Guess who they have now? Gary Sanchez. They have young position players mixed with ace veteran pitchers. They had Roger Clemens. Now they have Gerrit Cole. They had Andy Pettitte. Now they have Luis Severino. They have David Wells. Now they have James Paxton. This is the closest thing that the Yankees have had to being that team of the 90s, and they're hoping to have that same type of success. I don't know if they'll end up winning 4 World Series in 5 years, but I do think this team will definitely win 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 championships during this run. If Gerrit Cole is who we all think Gerrit Cole is, and I don't think you can really question that at this point, the Yankees are going to win a World Series. They are the clear favorite in the AL East. I mean, the Red Sox might trade away some things. The Blue Jays are always a non-factor. I mean, the Rays, I think, are going down because, again, they're going to lose some of their players. And, again, the Orioles are just plain awful. Think some of their players that were hurt last year will have more an impact, like Aaron Hicks, like Giancarlo Stanton. If Giancarlo Stanton comes back and gives the Yankees 30 to 35 home runs, think about how big a difference that is. If they had one more big bat last year, that could really be all the impact. Nobody's talking about that, but that's the elephant in the room. What if Giancarlo Stanton comes back and be that guy who was on the Marlins, who was an MVP candidate? I mean, that's the real mystery of the Yankees, is what Giancarlo Stanton is going to be. And if he is that, I mean, that's the ultimate icing on the cake. Like, if Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge, if Gleyber Torres is Gleyber Torres, but if Giancarlo Stanton, he could really be the X factor, because if he comes in and gives you 35 bombs and then Gerrit Cole comes in and wins 25 games, the Yankees could be another 100 to 110 win juggernaut type of team. The last thing I'll say about this contract, Gerrit Cole to the Yankees, is I think it's the best contract. It fills the biggest need. Like, the Angels getting Anthony Rendon, to me, is pointless because their biggest need is a star pitcher. The Yankees filled their biggest need. They didn't make a splashy free agent signing just for the sake of making a splashy big free agent signing. They needed a star pitcher. How many articles were written at the trade deadline? The Yankees need a pitcher and they need it now. Well, they filled that void. There is no more excuses. There's no more weaknesses to this Yankees roster. They are championship contenders for real now. They won 100 games the past 2 seasons with Aaron Boone. This is his time to lead the Yankees to a World Series championship. And with Gerrit Cole there, with Luis Severino, with James Paxton, with Masahiro Tanaka, he has some quality star pitchers on the Yankees roster. And I think they can get the job done. I mean, the American American League next year is looking really shaky. There's reports the Yankees are trying to trade everyone on their roster. Kluber, Lindor, Clevenger, everyone on the Indians is up for trades. The Red Sox might trade away their star players. The Houston Astros are now without Gerrit Cole. There's talks of them trading Carlos Correa. I mean, next year could be the definitive best chance the Yankees have had to win a World Series in the last 10 years. Think of the American League. Other than the Yankees, who's going to be the powerhouse teams? Because all the other powerhouses of last year are trying to trade off their best players while the Yankees are adding star quality players. Don't be surprised if the Yankees win their first World Series in a decade next season, because it might be their best chance. I mean, just look at that American League. All those teams are trying to get rid of stars, while the Yankees are adding stars, and they add the biggest one of all, Gerrit Cole. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Dead Podcast. I'm your host, Cam McKinney. There'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, so please rate, review, and subscribe.